All right, well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Chrome Apps Office Hours. Today I'm joined by Mike Tsao, who is joining me from Mountain View. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Pete. Hi, my name's Mike Tsao. I'm an engineer on the Chrome Apps and Notifications team, and I'm working on notifications.
Awesome. So Mike's joining us today because he's been one of the main guys who's been building the new rich notification system for Chrome apps. If you've played with the WebKit notifications or the HTML5 notifications before in Chrome and in other browsers, you're somewhat familiar with some of the notification stuff that's available. But the new notification system really allows you to provide much richer and I think much more beautiful notifications within your application. If we can switch over to my screen for a sec so we can have a look at a couple of these. So there's 4 different types of notifications that are available to users, or to you as a developer. There's the basic notification, which is just simply an image and some text. There's a simple notification, which is, again, an image and some text. You can provide a little bit more text on that, and you can also provide buttons. I don't have any buttons shown on the sample that I have on screen right now. The third type is an image notification. So you can pop up an image so that you can provide, hey, maybe somebody has added new photos. You can think something similar to what Google Plus does on an Android phone. When there's a new image, you see that little bit of the image. And finally, the fourth type of notification is a list notification. This is really great for if you have like a whole bunch of things that you need to tell the user about, but you don't want to put them all into 5 or 6 different notifications. You can go in and put in 5 different types. And with the simple, the image, and the list notification, those are all available. You can add buttons to each of those so that the user can interact with each of those. Right now, this stuff is under the experimental API, but that's changing. Mike, you said you pushed some of that stuff in earlier this week, so it should be going away.
We have a change list that's in flight right now that's going to be taking us out of experimental and into dev channel only. And what that means is that now it'll be easier for you to distribute your extension or app to users who are on the dev channel without making them go through the hassle of turning on the experimental flag.
Perfect, perfect. So once that goes away, that's going to make things a lot easier. The demo that I'm going to show you today, I'm running it in Chromium because right now this only works on Chrome OS and on Windows. It's not available quite yet on Mac, but it is coming. It's something we're working on, so we expect to see that land in the near future. So the rich notification API, it's chrome.notification.create, and there's 3 parameters it takes. An ID, so that on any of the callbacks you know which notification showed up. There's options, which we'll talk about in a sec, and creation callback. So the callback that gets called once the notification has shown up. The object that you pass for the notifications takes a couple of different things. So it takes the template type. And all of this stuff is not in the documentation yet. We're a little bit ahead of the documentation on this, which I always think is kind of fun. So you can find some stuff here as well. We'll put up in a minute or two. There's a blog post with a little bit more. So template type takes either basic, simple, image, or list, depending on what you're trying to, what type of notification you want to show. The title, the message. In some cases, you can have the expanded message, which is going to show up on the basic notification, I believe. The image URL, so if you're going to have that image pop up, you want to provide the image URL so it knows where to grab the image from. And if you're going to have a list, that items takes in an array with the list of things that you want to show up. So it takes title and message. You can also...
One more thing I'd like to point out, Pete, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
If If you're using the icon URL fields, then for a packaged app, you're going to be subject to Content Security Policy (CSP). Versus if you're using it in an extension, the CSP is pretty lax there. So
Right. Okay.
one slightly surprising behavior might be that you're not able to just head off to the open web and grab an image from there to display in your notifications. Be aware of CSP for packaged apps and try to avoid being surprised by that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, in the demo we'll show in a sec, we've handled that where the images are there locally, and I'll show you how we did that in a sec. And then there's a set of rich notification events that you can have as well, so that when the user when the notification is shown, when it's closed, if it's clicked, or if the user clicks on a button, obviously you need to have a callback so that you can handle each of those particular things. So with that, let's pop out of here and let's go have a look at a real live demo. Ah, lovely. I always love it when my virtual machine locks up on me. There we go. All right, so here we go. I've got this running. Like I said, it only runs in Windows and Chrome OS right now, and unfortunately I don't have a Chrome OS set up in Canary or Dev, but I'll get that going hopefully in the near future. This notification, if we can pop up the URL for the sample app right now, this is in the Chrome apps sample. So you can go and grab this from the URL. So the first letter there, that's a 0, not an O. So it's O, capital U, or sorry, 0, capital U, small n, capital U, capital V. Somewhere that way, yeah. Anyways, so here we go. We've got this app. And it's going to take, if I click on this button, it's going to show a simple notification. So sure enough, there's the simple notification. And you can see that it says simple notification, just some text. I can, if I close this guy, click on close. And instead of having a male icon, I want an Africa icon. We can change the icon, the image that shows up there, to be whatever you want. This app just has a couple of predefined ones set up here. Image notification, you can see here we've got a nice big size image. We've got the title, you've got the text below it, and a list notification. So it shows up with all of the things. If I want to, I'll close this guy and I'll add a button. Show photo on G+, right? So for example, I could do this, and sure enough, when the user clicks on that, the event gets called, and you can open up a window to whichever application that you want happen. So let's take a look at the code for how this guy is written. And I'll bring up Sublime and have a look at my main.js. So one thing I want to point out, all of the code for this application was written in the actual app JavaScript file, but I think that in a real application, you're probably not going to want to do that. You're probably going to want to put the notification events and notification handlers and all that kind of stuff into the app.js or into the main.js file. And the reason why I say that is because if you want a notification to pop up, you probably want the notification to pop up when the application maybe isn't running, on when certain events happen, or if the app is already running, the user's already probably in it and using it. But you want to be able to pop those notifications up even if the user's not running the application. So by putting the events and the handlers into your main.js file, you can listen for alarms, you can put some of your background processing script in there, so that way things are running as you'd expect. So let's have a quick peek at what's going on in this application. So the way that we wrote this, here's all of the images that are possible that you can have in the array list. So as you pop up that particular notification, we've got that. And then in this particular case, just because we wanted to be able to show the different types of notifications, we created a set of objects that have each of the different set of options. You can see here, here's the list with title, list notification, a message, and then each of the notifications that, each of the list items. And then we add our event listeners. So go in on our page load, we say Chrome experimental notification on display, add listener, and our callback is the notification displayed. So when the user runs this, we call the do notify event. So on any of the clicks to any of the events, we go in, figure out which element or which button they clicked on. Now, we talked about, and Mike mentioned this earlier, making sure that your image comes from your local file system so that you're not hit by any of the CSP things. So here in our image URL, we say chrome.runtime.getURL, and we provide the URL to the particular image. So that way it's going to give us that fully qualified URL. So that way when it goes to grab that image, we pull it from our local file system. We're all good to go. We don't have to worry about, hey, where'd that image come from? What are the CSP rules? We know that we're getting the image from the right place. And then finally, on our options.button, we can go in and say buttons and push the two buttons into the array lists if there are two buttons, or maybe we only just need one button. And then finally, Chrome.notification create. In this particular case, we're just using a simple ID based on the number, but you can use whatever you want in here. We pass it our options and our create callback. So it's a pretty simple thing to go and create these notifications. We've got our callback handlers that show each of the events. So actually, I'm going to pop back over to our sample here for a sec. And if I go in and inspect element so that we can see what's happening in the console, you can see all of the different events that happened in here. And we can see, oh, notification ID was closed. Notification ID 1 was displayed to the user. So if I add an image notification and I click on this button, if we go down here to the very bottom, notification ID 14 was successfully created, and our notification button 0 was clicked. So it's a relatively easy way to be able to go and pop up notifications and tell the user about things that are going on. So we just put up on the screen the link to questions. So if you have questions about these notifications or how you can use these notifications in your app or where to expect these, go post your questions in Moderator, and we'll take them here in just about two minutes or so. So like I said, getting this to run is a relatively simple process. There are, I believe, let's just double check on this. I don't believe you need, actually, maybe Mike, you can tell me while I try to look it up. Does the user need, or does the application need any particular permissions to be able to use these?
Yes. At this moment, you're going to need the experimental permission, right, because it's an experimental API. When we leave the experimental, it's going to require the notification permission. And this is not a very noisy permission in the sense that it's the kind of thing that'll scare away your users. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward stuff. But you will need that.
Cool. All right. Well, let's pop over to questions. If we can bring the question URL back up. It looks like I have lost my internet connection, which is always a little bit of fun. Oh, there we go. All right, so you can post your questions in there. There are no questions yet, but that's OK. I think one of the things that I think is really exciting about this is it really does provide an easy way for developers to be able to alert people about stuff that's going on within their apps. And your apps don't necessarily always have to be running. If you put the handler for this inside the main.js file or inside your background script, and you handle things like maybe you're listening for new data that gets posted to a server, maybe you're using the alarms API and you want to pop a notification up that reminds the user that, hey, it's maybe time to take your medication, or hey, you haven't been to the gym today, you should go to the gym. That would be a great little thing that Fitbit or any of those fitness applications went in and used. So I think with that, it looks like there aren't too many questions today. So Mike, do you have anything that you want to add?
Well, we're really excited about this API, particularly visually. It's turned out really nicely, and we're happy about that. And it's a super simple API to use. We're going to be adding more templates in the future to cover different use cases.
Oh, awesome. So
now is really the time for people to get in there and give it a try, make sure that we've covered every use case that we can think of. If there is a particular template or layout that you're really wanting, then this is a great time to suggest that, and we'll get our UX and UI folks working on it to make it gorgeous for you.
Yeah, that's great. So for those of you who do want your own templates and want to provide, go file a bug on CRBug, Chromium Bugs, and let us know about it so that we know, and then get your friends to go and star those bugs so that we see that there's a lot of community interest behind that. Cool. Well, Mike, thanks for joining me. I know it's a little bit early for you, so thanks for coming in early and joining us and talking a little bit about this. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, at our regular time and place. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Pete.